Okay, I just started the cloud recording. Let me start my backup recording, and let me change the order in which how I do this. And instead, right now, let me put my usual welcome message in the chat first for people who are here in real time, so that they don't feel lost. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining in this orientation session. If you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or put your question into the chat window. A brief explanation of a convention that you will see me sticking with. It matters for especially people who are here in real time. You will basically hear me speak non-stop. Every now and then I might ask a question and then pause very briefly, but it'll be very brief. And the main reason for that is in these online sessions, I've found that people don't, there are relatively few people who participate actively, and in an in-person teaching setting, there are things I can do as an experienced instructor to encourage people to speak up, and those tricks and techniques, they don't really work in the online setting. So in the online setting, I'm gonna go with a different convention, the convention of broadcasting world, where they simply try to minimize dead air. So I'm gonna do that, so you will hear me speak non-stop almost always. So this is the reason for my welcome message, where don't take my speaking non-stop as a disinvitation to questions. If you have a question, it looks like I'm gonna move on, then just unmute yourself and say. Now the thing to watch out for is that you will get recorded. So when you're speaking, just know that you will be recorded, and because I'm not giving you any.
Yeah.
You have a question, okay?
Yeah. I just want to make sure what time is class start tomorrow?
Tuesday at 6 p.m. I'll get to that. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Thank you.
Okay. So any other questions that relate to the class, not something I said, I'll probably get to it. So please hold on to them until I get to that point. um, Now, if you're not sure if something is an appropriate thing to ask at this time, especially at the very beginning, just put it into the chat, because something that's in the chat is never interrupting. And especially if you send it to me, so you can change who the recipient is and send it just to me, then it doesn't even get captured in recording. So with that, let me just highlight one other thing that's a bit of a last minute thing, and I'm glad I caught it now, because this will change what I do at the later virtual class sessions. So the link that was originally announced, this is what I'm used to using for many years, like since before COVID. There's something called the Comfort Zoom that we had for a long time, and this is a personal link that I had for a very long time that was available, because Zoom wasn't quite as widespread then, and for some reason it got grandfathered in when we had our own Peralta had our own domain, so I kept using it. And it worked as far as I know even until last Friday, but today it just stopped working. If you go to this link, it'll probably say personal room not found, and some of you who are joining by recorded video might have had that issue. So the correct link to use, I guess, from now on will be this one, because the link that I'm used to using will no longer work. So there's a Peralta-edu in front that I'll just have to add. I gotta update some of the one-on-one meetings that's happening today and tomorrow, so that people coming into that meeting have a correct link. So so I guess let me let me hold off on the explanation of my kind of the physical setup, other than to say, there's always a bit of unnaturalness to video conference. One of that is, when you're speaking with the people in real life, in face to face, I guess, away from keyboard, then, when people are making eye contact, like there's like there's a non-verbal communication of the type that happens. In the video conference setting, when I want to make it look like I'm making eye contact, I'm like I'm doing right now, I'm actually looking at this camera hole. So when I'm actually looking, this matters for people who are here in real time, trying to gauge, did I see your question and all that. When I see your question is when I'm looking over here. That's where my second screen is, where I have all the other things that I use to manage this session. So people who are here in real time, when I'm looking for your reactions and whatnot, I'm looking over here. All the other directions I'm looking, like these four corners of the screen that's being shared. I'm looking in that direction. I'm not. I guess that's one of the situations where if you put something into the chat as a question and it looks like I'm gonna move on and I'm not looking in that direction, then you probably should unmute yourself and ask to make sure I won't move on before addressing your question. So let me get started with the agenda item. I guess I'm gonna try to move through the agenda a little bit quicker than I do normally. Now, I think, let's see. Some of you might have seen, this is actually new. This is the first semester when we are teaching a class in this particular arrangement where I've had a regular session class that's exactly like this one that started 3 weeks ago. And I think I included the link to that recording here. So some of you might have seen it. And usually I say, things change from semester to semester. But this time, it's the same semester, so not many things have changed. So some of the things I cover in the orientation session, there's almost the exact same version there. The only thing that's different with this class is we have a hybrid lecture, and I'll talk about that a little bit. And so that I'll have time to talk about it, let me go through some of the other agenda items more quickly. So some of those that I'll go through more quickly is the introduction. Hi, my name is Andrew Park, and people who are here in real time, they haven't had a chance to introduce themselves. I'll just move on. You have online discussion where you are introducing yourself, so I think I'm not taking anything away. And I'll do my own longer intro when I get to that part. Let me just quickly highlight a few beginning of semester notes. And this is the part of my regular message that's here. That's the first announcement, and really about making sure the lines of communication are open. Now, this is kind of a standard text that I use for my online only class and also my other Physics 4A that has online only lecture and in-person lab. I don't know how much of this still applies to our hybrid class, because we do have another once a week lecture session. But regardless, I think it's still a good thing for people to be reachable, because otherwise I have to start calling you. And to make sure that you are reachable, make sure that you are either checking Peralta email regularly or that you are forwarding your Peralta email to an email that you are checking regularly, like at least once a day. There are instructions. If you need any help doing that, let me know. We can chat during the in-person class. There are some key notifications that you should set in Canvas so that certain types of Canvas communications reach you in the way it's intended. And I'll just condense my recommendation into these few words. One, I recommend that you set everything as notify immediately. Like, I think that's a good default setting. Anything that's annoying you, where there's too much notification, you will figure it out as you receive those notifications. Like for me, that was all submissions. Then, turn it down to either daily or weekly summary. But until some notifications start to annoy you, like if you set it as notify immediately, then you'll be in far less danger of missing anything important. Now, I realize some people might be taking online classes where there are other more annoying forms of communication. So even in those cases, this is what I would strongly recommend that you consider setting as notify immediately so that you don't miss any important communication. One is the announcement. So new announcement in your class, please set that as notify immediately so that you get these messages. Like the announcement, the welcome to week 1. I posted this at 11 p.m. last night. So that means if your announcement setting was like a daily summary, then you would not be getting that notification for another couple hours. Now, I try not to announce anything in the course announcements where you have to, react within 24 hours. This orientation session, I announced it a couple different times before this message. But so by setting announcement as anything other than notify immediately, you are potentially introducing up to 24-hour delay. And why introduce unnecessary delay? So announcement, it's one. And two is the conversations. So my first way of trying to reach out to you when necessary will be through Canvas message. So for that and I still want that to work like an email, because so I send it through Canvas for organizational purposes, but I still want you to receive it like an email. For that to work, you should set conversation message, new inbox messages as notify immediately. That way, when you receive a message through Canvas, that'll get basically forwarded to you as an email. So that's the second thing. The third thing, this I think gets missed sometimes, and I kind of realized it after a semester of online teaching, and some of my colleagues sometimes get bewildered by students who seem to never get their grading feedback, and it goes to what's called a submission comment. It's this one. The submission comment, if you have notification for this turned off, then you will basically never get a comment that I leave that's associated with the grading. Like right now, some of you might complete honor code pledge incorrectly, and when that happens, I zero out your score and I tell you what to fix. And if you have submission comment turned off, then you might not get the message. Now you will get prevented from progressing in the class. So eventually you will have to try to figure out what's going wrong, at least for honor code pledge. But there might be other assignments where in the grading feedback that I leave, I wanted you to do something differently, and you never got it. So you never do it differently, and so make sure that this is turned on. And there's one last fourth thing that wasn't in any of the announcements before. It's a discussion, new topic, and I will mention this as I post the recording to this orientation session. Any online things we do, anything I record, that's going to get posted in discussions as a new topic. And I realize with the discussion, sometimes the way certain instructors run their online classes, like with the new replies, this can get really annoying. I get that. So if you want to disable new reply, fine, do it. Doesn't affect my class. But please turn new topic as some level of notification, either immediately or even daily summary. The main thing you will see there is the notification of new recordings being posted. And I have another reason why I want people to turn this on. It's because the discussion in this class is set up so that anyone can post. But that does any good only if people have this notification turned on. Otherwise, critical number of your classmates don't receive notification of any new topic your classmates post. So yeah, those are the 4 things that I'd like you to turn on in the notification setting so that you are notified in a timely way. That's the 3 that's mentioned here, plus 1 that I just said. And yeah, the rest of this is just my boilerplate message. So let me move on to the next agenda item. I'm trying to go a little bit more quickly than usual. Again, if you are interested in what my normal, longer, slower orientation session looks like, you can watch the recording for my other class. It's basically the same material, except they have 100% online lecture. So that part I will make sure to spend a little bit of time, make sure I'm not rushing through that portion. So I did the introduction, reminder of the Tuesday's in-person lab session. Oh, I guess that is that portion. So as you look at the syllabus and bunch of places, by the way, I think there's one place online that Peralta's trying new, that's like online schedule of classes that you can see when you don't have a Campus Solutions account. I've seen some incorrect information there, so don't rely on that. Your Campus Solutions always has correct info, and the syllabus reflects the correct info, which is both of the in-person class sessions that are scheduled for this hybrid class. So lab, that's something that we've been doing for a very long time, and this is basically like any other in-person lab for any physics class. I think we basically tried online lab one semester, and then a sort of cohort model another semester during the in the middle of the COVID pandemic, and we're never doing that again. We've been doing in-person lab since like 22 to late. I guess early 2021 maybe. So it's once a week, and this is really the enforced part of the like attendance enforced part of the class meetings. When people are missing the lab session, like tomorrow, Tuesday, 6 p.m. People who are not there, they'll be getting a message from me, basically asking, "Are you staying in class?" Because I need to drop people who are not participating in class. So that's the lab. This in-person lecture, this is something that I've been wanting to bring back for a while, and because I think there are certain type of student who I really think can benefit from an in-person meeting, and I see these students basically ending the class with a C, when I think with a more kind of hands-on help, they might have been able to at least get a B or something. So that's really why we do this 14-week session class. We put this lecture as a hybrid, so that we have a scheduled in-person meeting time at least once a week. This is like half the amount of meetings that you would normally have. So with the lecture, I guess what I have to say is that in terms of the material that's available online, both like a straightforward lecture, me lecturing, lecture videos, and the online assignments, the kind of the material that this class has is basically the same as my other Physics 4A that has 100% online lecture. And somehow, if you think approaching this class that way will work for you, then sure. The kind of the attendance at the lecture portion of the class is it's more flexible than it would be for lab. I won't be dropping people based on their absence from the lectures meetings, and I'll talk more about that at the Tuesday's lab session, and as part of the discussion that I'm planning for the lab session on Tuesday, I can also describe more the types of students that I thought might be able to benefit from this in-person meeting. So yeah, that's the reminder of Tuesday's lab. Please make sure you are there, and if somehow you can't be there, let me know so that I know why you won't be there, and make sure you can be there next week. People who can't be there like 2 weeks in a row, I have to drop you, because there are these fake students who are enrolling in class for sole purpose of receiving financial aid, and we instructors have been encouraged to drop them. So that's a reminder of Tuesday's in-person lab session. Yeah, I think I keep not doing this portion, getting feedback from people attending in real time. Today there were some, hiccups about the meeting link, and I think I'm fine. But let me do this. I do want to receive feedback from people on the virtual class session and office hour schedule that's currently scheduled. I think you see a version on the syllabus, and let me go to the ungraded survey that I'm using to gather people's feedback. I unpublished this when I realized I didn't update it. So I think this is now the updated version. Let me just double check. Yeah, virtual class session. I'm for now scheduling it at 11 a.m. That's actually the same virtual class session I'm holding for my other Physics 4A, and I'm kind of trying to share that one block of time between the two classes. I think that'll work out, because most of what I do during the session is not really time sensitive. I'm using most of the time to play with the AI and to finish doing some of the backlog of kinematics questions. So that's gonna be kind of an evergreen thing throughout the semester. And there might be one or two things that's kind of time sensitive each week. So this Friday, I'm actually gonna do problem set assessment demo that I need to do. It does like a 2-part demo. So I'll do that using this class's material this Friday, and then the week after I will demonstrate the grading of that. So that's the virtual class session time. Now, if I get significant, as in a few feedback from people saying like they would like to participate, but like this time they can't, but if it were another time and there's enough of people identifying a particular time, then I'm open to doing that. That's what this survey is for. And for my office hours, I have Mondays 6 to 8 p.m. These are all in person, by the way. I'll talk about online kind of down below. And I have 30 minutes before each class session. Tuesday and Wednesday, that's this class. And Thursday, that's my other Physics 4A. 30 minutes before that is also office hour. Somehow, again, if these times don't work, then please let me know what other times you might work. And, if they'll work fine, then just say okay or NA or something. And the reason these are in person only and not online is kind of explained here. I've done that before. Someone would just ask, could that in person office hour also be online? And I'll say, sure, why not? I'll do that. And then nobody uses it. And it's huge waste of time on my part. Because for in-person office hour, I don't have to do a lot. I just have to make sure I'm here, that if someone walks in through the door, I can, attend to them. That's all I have to do. But to add online office hour to it, I have to basically make sure to be online, set up the equipment. It's a lot of work, which I don't mind doing if people are using it. But people who request it never seem to actually use it. So now what I will tell you is that if you want to discuss something online on Zoom, then sure, just request it. Then I will add it. It can be any time that I'm available, or it can be during the in-person office hour if I don't have someone scheduled to come in for some reason. So it's not like I'm not available during this time online. I just don't want to be constantly available online without anyone else making similar kind of commitment. So yeah, this is the survey. I've updated it. Let me make sure I publish it so that people can access it and respond. And I will include the link to this survey when I announce the availability of the recording for this online orientation session. There's one place where you can already access, aside from manually typing this link. There's one place where you can access it, but it's a place where I want you to ignore. So I won't tell you to use it, because that's kind of mixed messages. I don't like that. Let me just make sure no one's told me that they're trying to join but couldn't find the link. Yeah, that really threw me off. So I think I have enough time to do the portions of the course demo that I want you to do. So let me do that. I'm going to turn into student and go through the course demo. There are some aspects of the class that I've seen people get confused, both in my 100% online class, in my other Physics 4A, hybrid, but with a 100% online lecture. And I kind of anticipate with this hybrid lecture class, there will still be people who get confused by a certain way the class is set up. And, some of it is actually, you are not principally to blame. The organization that's principally to blame is Canvas instructor. It's because they have this to-do bar that they don't let us instructors disable. If I could disable it, I would. Like you can see on the other side the bar, I've disabled a lot of stuff because I'm trying to keep things clean. I don't want to have unnecessary links here that confuse people. This to-do bar, it confuses people because you look at it, you think, oh, that's something for me to do. And for some of the items, that might work fine. You go to the announcement, you read the announcement, yeah, that works fine. And in fact, the announcement widget that's at the top, it only lists the most recent announcement. So if you are using to-do bar to keep track of the announcement, sure, I got no issue with that. It's the rest of it. So it gives you links to things that you can't do, that you don't have access to. People look at it and think, oh, I'm gonna do it. And no, you gotta unlock it. And sometimes, especially if it's like Tuesday midnight, just before it's due, someone might see this and message me hurried saying, hey, professor, I'm trying to, do this assignment and it's locked. Can you unlock it for me? And usually the kind of people who send me that message don't read the rest of the message here. If you do read the rest of the message, then you can see what you need to do to unlock this. It says it hasn't been unlocked yet. Not by me. There's nothing I can do to unlock it for students individually. it hasn't been unlocked yet by you. There are actions you need to take to unlock this, and it is spelled out here, but people get confused. And I think sometimes on a mobile app, the kind of the requirements that you need to fulfill are not clearly visible. I also, recommend you don't use the mobile app. But if you are using the to-do bar, you never had a chance to see that advice. And that's why, even though you could use the link here, I'm not telling you to use it. I'll just give you the link to that office hour survey as one of the announcements, telling you that, hey, recording for the orientation session is available, and if you can, please fill out this survey. So the way you should actually start this class is, one, start by reading this homepage. It's not that long. It says, welcome, please click on start here. That's how you should start. Now, the first time it'll work. It's a static link that goes to this static page. So the first time, you would get here, read it through, click next, and read the page through. Like when I put up these pages, I read it through it myself. I update it. Like, this is the first time we are teaching hybrid lecture class, and I believe I updated it. So I spend a lot of time putting up the information. I want you to read it. Now, as test student right now, I'm doing things that I frankly shouldn't do, which is I'm not reading any of it. So I'm telling you, don't do what I'm doing. Take some time to read it. And it does come down to how much effort I'm willing to put in to make sure people are reading the information that I think is helpful to them. And I feel like I've done my part for a lot of this material. I feel like I've done this on my part. Just making the material available and putting some minimal level of Canvas module requirement so that you can just skip ahead without even being aware that these pages exist. So I feel like I've done that. Now, certain items are important enough that if we are just keep clicking next, you will be stopped. You will see there's something more you need to do. And if you read the error message, then you will see what you need to do to unlock this page. There was a question, let me look. It's a private question. Hi, I have a question about, should we need to reply this question for introduce yourself section? No. And in fact, if you are looking at this and you are confused that you are not able to access anything more, then then go back and do the honor code pledge. One, two. So I think let me do the honor code pledge correctly. Then within the graded discussion prompt, you will see what's required, what's not. So let me just do it that way. So the places where you get stopped from being able to just progress, progress like the way I've been doing, frankly, being a bad student, not reading the material, just clicking things without reading. There are places where I stop you from doing that because there's material that I want to make sure that you take time to look at it. And so now let's say you got stopped by that and you somehow walked away and you're coming back. And again, I don't recommend going to start here every single time. It gets annoying because start here, it'll just go to the same page, the very first page, and you don't want to click next to click next to through. Now, if you didn't read it the first time and you want to go through and read it, then that's fine. But after you've read it, the main way in which you should access this class is, as it says here, the course is best viewed through the modules. The modules view is where you will see all the things that are coming up and all the requirements you have to fulfill in order to move on to the next item. So all those items where I simply clicked next through, they have a module requirement called view. That's why I could simply click next through, because what that view requirement is it makes sure that my web browser loaded the page. It doesn't quite ensure that I as the test student personally read the page. So again, for most of this material, I feel like I've done my job by putting the material up. I've put on some minimal module requirement to make sure you can simply skip to the assignment. And after that, I don't really want to spend more of my time making sure that you read every one of these pages in detail. Now, some pages are important. Honor code pledge is one of them. And I think sometimes students underestimate just how important academic honesty is. It's important for your own development, academic and professional development. The kind of student who cheat through fundamental classes like this one, I don't know what career you think you will be leading, because whatever place you get to by cheating through this class, I don't think you'll be in a happy place. Even if you never get caught cheating and you somehow get the job you want, like you won't be competent at that job. So, what kind of future are you making for yourself? That's one. Two, the way the grading system has been set up for this class, there's really no way to get an A or B other than by understanding how to solve physics problems. So sometimes people think, oh, I'm going to use ChatGPT to do everything and that'll somehow get me an A. Nope. This class has a grading mechanism that I feel really confident in. I've been using it 2.5 years, and no one can get an A or B without understanding solve some physics problems. So to convey all of this, people really should read the honor code. And again, on that page, you could just click next to through. So this pledge is the item where I want you to make sure that people actually read it. And what I do in this honor code pledge is really the most I'm willing to do to make sure that people have read a certain block of text. And I will tell you common ways in which people do this wrong. And then I'll do one kind of novel way of doing it that I will say is it will still be accepted. Like one common way I've seen people do this wrong, they just type in their name and then move on. It's like people rushing through stuff, not reading anything, not reading the instructions. It doesn't say type your name. It says, please type below indented text. And in case you don't know what indented text means, this is the indented text with a little bit of indent. Indented text in the answer box, replacing the name with your own name. So, I mean, you will be typing your name, but as a portion of a bigger block of text. So that's one of the reasons for this particular pledge quiz, because if someone's in the habit of not reading assignment instructions, I want to break you out of that habit, because from my perspective, there's really very little distinction between honest student who doesn't read instructions and dishonest student who intends to cheat. And I want to make sure that one particular possibility of an honest student who simply doesn't read the instructions or are unable to understand instructions, that I'm aware of that early on so that I can make sure you have extra support. Now, second way in which people do this wrong, they maybe didn't read these warnings, or they read it and didn't care. So they just copy and paste and then replace this name with their own name. And I can't claim to know all the thinkings of such a student that goes into it. I mean, the question number 2 says, do this. And I guess it's a matter of, are you an honest person or not? Like someone who is honest will not be able to click yes without realizing, oh, I did this wrong. Let me just erase it and do it correctly. Like an honest person will at least have that much sense. Someone who's not honest, I've seen people, do the copy and paste, click yes, and then move on. And then there are some people who do additional things that's really baffling. I will demonstrate how I know when someone's done this honestly versus dishonestly. And let me do that demonstration a little bit differently for your class. I'm used to doing that demo at the lab session. That's in fact what I've done with my other Physics 4A this semester. But with my Physics 10 100% online class, I tried something different, and I think it might work as well. So I'll do that for this class. I'll talk about that more later. For right now, so I usually do this. This is the proper demo. With my hands, I type. I test student will make submissions, and that's the proper way to do it. Now, I was using more of the voice typing stuff over the summer break and the winter break, and I wondered how this will look if someone uses voice typing instead of finger typing. And so let me use Windows voice typing. I got shortcuts that bring up this stuff, and I'll just do this through voice typing and see how that works. Gonna stop it. So usually when I'm doing typing with my fingers, I also demonstrate I can multitask. Say one thing and type another thing. But with the voice typing, I'll simply have to read this out loud the right way. So I've got here voice typing, and hopefully me using the voice typing here doesn't mess up any of my microphone stuff. Let me just. Yeah, I think it's gonna be fine. Yeah, yeah. Or I'm gonna pull this to my second screen so that I can just monitor the microphone level there. Okay. I, test student, will make submissions that represent my own work, not share my own work and solutions with anyone else except where explicitly allowed, not engage in plagiarism, not use outside resources during open book timed assessments, and not engage in any other activities that dishonestly improve my results or dishonestly damage or improve the results of others. I pledge this on my honor. So I have two reasons for saying that this way of entering text here will be accepted. One is I think it'll be pretty difficult for me to detect it. I will show you what I mean. Now I'm making some minor corrections, but like that's not required. That wouldn't be a portion of what I look for. So one, I think it'll be kind of hard for me to distinguish between someone using voice typing versus someone who's typing but not all that, fastidious about punctuation, all that. Oops. Yeah, like there's will missing there. So like it's hard for me to distinguish between minor typos versus this. So that's one. Two, really the main purpose of this honor code pledge is to make sure that this block of text made through your brain somehow. And if you're reading it out loud, I think that can't. That's one way of making a block of text to go through your brain. So I think it can't. Now there are other ways you can, you can do text to speech and then couple it with the voice typing. But I think at some point people are spending way too much effort trying to be dishonest than simply doing the thing honestly. So at some point, like I'm not all that interested in trying to prevent when people are just hurting themselves. So I will demonstrate in a little bit, maybe 20 minutes or so, what it looks like when someone's done this pledge dishonestly. So now that I've done this honor code pledge, I can go to the graded discussion and participate. And you must post before seeing replies. So right now I can't see anyone else's post. I need to post myself. And there was a question, do you have to reply to your classmates? I think I address it. Let's see. Each your choice whether you reply to other students' post. And like 95% of the people usually see not replying to other people's posts. That's fine. Sometimes I see people replying to other people's posts, but it almost always looks to me like it's out of habit. You are so used to other online classes like post once and reply twice kind of requirements, and you might be on autopilot doing that even for my class where that's not required. And what I will say is that I really hate that kind of arrangement. I think it's artificial. I think it's inauthentic. And most importantly, I think it doesn't really reflect what happens in an in-person class. So very few of the graded discussion, I think none this semester will have any requirement that you reply to other students. Now, you are welcome to, it's a discussion. You are not restricted from replying to other people, but don't feel like you have to do it because you have to, reply to other people because you want to. So let me make a reply myself. I'm doing it in test student account, but I'll do it as me, so that this also doubles as my own longer intro as your instructor. So I'll say, hi, my name is Andrew Park. Whenever you see a test student in these graded discussions, not too many, this and maybe one other. In these graded discussions, it's me, your instructor, clearing the module requirement for the test to student. I don't think I have too many times when I had to do this. Maybe one other discussion where I needed to clear the test to student module requirement. Um, yeah, and that goes to what I was saying earlier. I can't unlock the item for you individually. Like I have, as an instructor, I have a super user access, but like I can't just clear test student requirement. This is a contribute requirement, and test student has to contribute to meet this module requirement. My Andrew Park, that was a long parenthetical remark, and my preferred name is Andrew. Although if you feel uncomfortable calling me by first name, Mr. Park is fine. Dr. Park is wrong. Professor, I don't know. I prefer Mr. Park, but Andrew or Mr. Park. And I'll answer the rest of the questions as a way of doing my own introduction, but with the questions modified so that it fits me. It asks why you are taking the class. So I'm teaching this class. I'm teaching this class, not taking it, and I have several reasons for teaching this class, some of which might be too much information. One, I'm the full-time instructor, so as the sole full-time physics instructor at College of Alameda, this class is part of my full-time teaching load. So in some sense I have to, but that's not the only reason. I do love teaching this class because of all the physics classes we teach. This is the one class that focuses on physics problem solving. What you are going to see as standard strategies soon, and other methods. And there's actually a third reason, and I'll say this might be too much information. We were planning to start offering physics 3A this semester, but there were some issues with the UC transferability of physics 3A. It's UC transferable, but it doesn't meet IGETC requirements. Like we have to wait another year for it to be part of IGETC or CalGETC now. So we still had to teach another class like it. See number 1 above, my full-time teaching load. And we thought it might be good to offer a late start version of physics 4A. And while we are doing that, I also want you to kind of experiment with if going back to some level of in-person lecture might be beneficial to people. So and I'll say, and there are other things I'm testing out with this semester's 14-week session physics 4A. Yeah, that's probably enough. How do you learn best? I guess for the last question, I'll answer briefly since I'm trying to cover some more stuff in this orientation session. I learn best by reading. As in, I don't find watching videos to be the most efficient way for me to learn, which is very ironic. Given, but I'll address that in the next 10 minutes or so. I can learn things much more quickly by reading. And this might be a good news to people who are like me. Every instructor, I think, sets up their class so that people who are like them do fine. So if you are similar in a similar situation where you get annoyed watching videos, you just want to read a textbook, figure out how to do it, and do solve the problems, you're gonna do fine. And I'll point out some of that approach later on as I'm doing the rest of the course demo in the remaining 30 minutes or so. So any remaining questions, please ask. Okay. Gonna go back to the regular Zoom and then I'll submit it, and I'm gonna try to make sure that I don't scroll down too much, because if it does, then I need to blur out the names from the YouTube version of this orientation session video, and I don't want to. And I think the way it's been used the first, yeah, so that's me, test student, and I won't scroll down any further. Now that test student has contributed, I can click next, and I should be able to see the material normally, and So, so we have about a little over 10 minutes remaining. I think that's enough amount of time for me to kind of demonstrate some of the assignment items that you will be working through as part of week 1. And so I will clear lecture 1 as the kind of the student that I was describing myself as, someone who learns best by reading rather than watching videos and whatnot. So I do create these videos. In fact, this is the ironic part. I spend a lot of time making these videos, and it's really made for people who learn. They feel like they learn better from videos, lectures, and even this hybrid lecture class, we don't have the normal 4 hours per week of time in person, and even the 2 hours that we have, I don't plan to spend most of it doing the traditional lectures. So for people who want kind of something that's equivalent to traditional lecture, hey, here's that video, watch this, and this is really for you. And now, most of the videos will be this. So this is a little bit over an hour. Many of them will be closer to 2 hours. They are all between like 1 to 2 hours long, and some of them, most of them are closer to 2 hours than anything. And if you are kind of in between, you want to watch the videos because you are not confident you will learn everything from the textbook. So now you can split the difference. You can watch the video at double the speed. I think if you watch it that way, then you won't really miss anything. And these the captions should be pretty close to what I'm saying out loud. So if you're just following the captions or listening to me speak at double the speed, I think that's gonna be fine for most people. So you can split the difference that way. Now let me just skip ahead. So let's imagine somehow you reached the end of this section somewhere here, and I'll just skip ahead a little bit, and it'll drop me into the questions, and so I probably should revise these questions, but revise probably for next year. There's something new that I'm trying out with my Physics 10, and I think I want to do that, make the change to my other classes too, but I'll do that for next semester. For this semester, they're basically going to look like this, which are all kind of multiple choice, which means, frankly, you can do something like what I'm doing right now. What I'm doing right now is like totally the worst thing to do, which is you are just doing a parameter search on these multiple choice questions by abusing the fact that you have basically unlimited attempts. I mean, you have 100 attempts, but with the number of choices, it's basically unlimited. So someone who's not reading any of this could technically get all the right answers. I haven't taken any technological measures to stop you from doing that. And I don't recommend it because ultimately what matters is how much physics did you understand, and through understanding physics, how good are you at solving physics problems. If you're not doing those two things, then all the scores you get here, it doesn't count for anything. Like, you're not going to get an A or B based on these guessed work. And so now other people could be like me, where you kind of know the physics without having watched the lectures. You read the textbook and you understood enough for the textbook, and you can answer this. So let me actually read through it and answer it. So answer according to the lecture, which of the following is the key step in a systematic approach to solving physics problems, and then you should be identify relevant physics concepts. The lecturer notes the most difficult part of you setting up the correct equations, more challenging than algebra itself, because think of this one. Correct the physical principles. And see, the lecturer mentions a research called the portable T, what is primary benefit. I think offer many, So someone who knows the content without having watched it, sure, you can answer it this way. You can totally do it that way. Now, you might be thinking that I, of course, know the answers to these questions because they are my own lectures. Claim that I didn't watch the lecture, but I watched this several times in the process of lecturing and editing the lecture videos and double checking those transcripts. Now, here's a thing that I haven't really tested. I just thought of it right now. So AI, which I'll look at in the next couple minutes, can kind of serve as a physics expert. Like ChatGPT, I'm opening it in incognito mode to make sure that it doesn't have access to what's in my own account that has actual lecture content, all that. This is an incognito window, not associated in any way with my own account, and I'm just gonna ask. Hi, can you help me answer this question? And I think a lot of the questions, someone who's good enough in physics, like ChatGPT, should be able to answer it without having a specific knowledge of the lecture content. Every now and then, there are some questions that you do need actual lecture content to answer, but many of these questions, someone who knows physics, let's say from reading the textbook, can just answer. Good. Here's the next question. So this is where I'm saying, someone who's like me, you prefer to learn through reading the textbook, videos annoy you. Great, learn physics by reading the textbook, and the assignments are set up in a way where people who are approaching the course that way, you are not disadvantaged in any way. Because someone who simply knows physics, you can answer this basically in the proper way, maybe. I wasn't reading. When I'm cheating when I'm doing something like what I'm doing with the ChatGPT here, my kind of physics brain turns off. So you can do it that way. I think there's one more set of questions. Oh, there's two more set of questions. Okay, let me answer this properly. So here, I'm back to being me. I know all the physics. I kind of know the lecture content also. So let me answer this quickly. Vector of that. Yeah, this is polar to Cartesian coordinate stuff. Now, don't make this thing like automatic formula. There's like warning I give you. Which best explains why. I think that's not quite cannot. I think this is better than this. Calculators can do inverse tangent, but the range is limited to make the calculation work. Extra caution. Yeah. So this is what it's getting at. What quadrant it's in. Because quadrant 1 and quadrant 3 looks identical in terms of tangent. I think this one. Yeah. Good. Let me do the next one. I'm gonna try to go a little bit fast. If I miss something, it'll be a little bit embarrassing, but density. Can't you add? Because I think that's the right one. Simple bounding approach. Yeah, it's just calculate the minimum and maximum. Extreme values, calculus-based approach, which are the following steps. Take the derivative. What? Yeah, I think that's the one. I see. So if you have a question, just ask it in the chat. I'll be able to, read it. Or if you want to unmute yourself and ask, you can do that. Let me just answer this. Um, be most convenient. Where you have to use it a lot. I think this one. Uh, yeah. Yeah. So I got 17 out of 17. Now, I was told that in that scenario, there wouldn't be any delay in score transmission. So in that case, I should be able to immediately access the next item. Let me see if it happens that way. If it doesn't, then I will explain the thing about the delay in grade transmission. We'll see. Um, yeah. So there's a bit of a delay in grade submission. I think that happens regardless. It takes anywhere between 1 to 5 minutes. So when you get something like this, it says must score at least 10, and I scored 17. What's up? This discrepancy is because I did that work in MyOpenMath, and MyOpenMath builds in a little bit of delay in when it Oh yeah. So right now it transmitted a score of 13 so far, so I can go back and actually refresh, and it'll work. And it'll take a couple of minutes for this to become 17. So let me refresh this, and it'll now show me the learning with the AI. And here I think I'm just gonna to just clear the module requirement. I'm not gonna actually participate. When you get through the course, get to this part, you can do that. I, as test student, don't have to. So let me just don't know why this is taking so long. I hope my internet is fine. At least Zoom is not complaining about slow internet, so I think it's gonna be fine. It might be something happening with the canvas. Yeah, so I'll go to this, and then so there's all of this, and the questions you've been answering were generated with AI. That's one of the reasons you shouldn't really focus on those questions. The questions are there to spot check your understanding. Like sometimes questions cover the thing that I don't really think is the core thing. So there's all of this. Just gonna say just clearing the module requirement for the test student. And I'll make sure I don't scroll down. Okay, I think I see the question. Yeah, so I think that question I already addressed. You say, I completed this assignment earlier today. I carefully reviewed everything, click submit, but the system now shows 3 out of 17 completed. So my recommendation to you is wait a couple minutes, because you probably just completed it now. So or after the recorded the portion of the session ends, I can also look at your record. Wait a few minutes. Now within about 5 minutes, if it hasn't updated, then let me know, because then I can go in, look at the system logs, and try to figure out what might have gone wrong. Yeah. So sometimes I guess you wouldn't be doing it in practice mode yet. So I think practice mode is not an issue. Sometimes that happens. I just contributed. Why is it not? I don't know. Sometimes Canvas takes a while to figure out that I've met those requirements. Let me go to modules view. See if within modules view it appears as I contributed. Okay, good. So I just want you to get this far. There's the rest of the page, and I do really mean problem set is the most important part of this class, and it's the most important in this way. You should learn, for those of you wanting to get an A or B, you should learn how to solve physics problems. And how I try to figure out, do you know how to solve physics problems, is through by asking you these problem set questions. The written work that you do, you should treat it like a practice. So here, me knowing everything there is to know about metric prefixes, I can answer this super quickly. Now some of you answer this super quickly cheating using AI, or have a friend to do it for you, or something. I don't know, bigger than one. So I think it should be this. I think that's right, 4 picometers. So for me, doing this super quickly, I'm doing it super quickly, properly, through my knowledge of physics. And if anyone, I missed the one thing. It's 9:40. Um, so if someone asks me to redo it, I can redo it and I can explain my reasoning because all of this comes from my own knowledge. And so for the grading purposes, we are gonna do what's called a required one-on-one meeting, and I'll describe them more at the lab session tomorrow. And for those of you trying to get an A or B, your focus should be on learning how to solve physics problems so that you can do it again. The same exact questions you have seen, I ask you to redo it, you should be able to redo it.